The air in the old dojo was thick. It was thick with dust, with history, and with tension. This was the Underground Dragon Tournament, a secret contest held only once every 10 years. It was not for a shiny trophy or a big bag of money. No, this was for something much more important: honor. The winner would be named the Grand Master of the Hidden Fist, a title respected by every fighter who knew about it. The wooden floorboards creaked under the weight of 6 nervous fighters. They stood in a circle, their eyes locked on each other. The only light came from paper lanterns hanging from the ceiling, casting long dancing shadows that made everyone look bigger, more dangerous. This secret tournament was a tradition passed down through generations. It was a test of skill, a test of spirit, and a test of will. The rules were simple. There were no rules. The fight would continue until only one person was left standing. The old master, Master Wu, sat in the corner, his eyes closed. He was not a judge, just a witness. He had won this tournament a long, long time ago. Now he was here to see who would carry the legacy forward. The fighters breathed slowly, trying to control their racing hearts. They knew this fight would change their lives forever. For some, it was about proving their strength. For others, it was about protecting something they loved. Each fighter had walked a different path to get here. They came from all corners of the world, drawn by the legend of the Hidden Fist. They had trained in mountains, in crowded cities, and in quiet temples. They had sacrificed everything for this one moment. The silence in the room was a heavy blanket. You could hear a pin drop. You could hear a heartbeat. The fighters did not move. They waited. Waiting is the hardest part of any fight. It is when your mind plays tricks on you. It is when you start to doubt yourself. But these fighters were strong. Their minds were as sharp as their fists. The lanterns swayed gently, their warm light glinting off the sweat on the fighters' brows. The smell of old wood and incense filled the air, a strange mix of peace and violence. This dojo had seen countless battles, its walls echoing with the shouts and impacts of warriors long gone. Tonight, a new story would be written on its floors. The 6 fighters were not just opponents, they were the ink, and their movements would be the words. The legacy of the Hidden Fist was a heavy burden to carry, and only the strongest soul, not just the strongest body, would be able to lift it. The moment was almost here. The world outside disappeared, leaving only the circle of 6. First, there was Kaito from Japan. He was a traditionalist, a master of Shotokan karate. His movements were powerful, straight, and clean. Every punch was a hammer, every block a wall of stone. He fought for his family's dojo, which was in danger of closing. Winning this tournament was his only hope to save his heritage. He stood firm, his white eyes spotless, his expression a mask of pure focus. He was like a mountain, unmoving and strong. His knuckles were hard from years of hitting the makiwara, the striking pose. He represented the old way, the path of discipline and honor.
Next was Elena from Brazil. She was a whirlwind of motion, a student of capoeira mixed with Kyokushin karate. She never stood still, always dancing, always flowing. Her style was unpredictable, full of spinning kicks and acrobatic dodges. Elena fought for her little brother, who needed an expensive surgery. She smiled, but her eyes were sharp, watching everyone. She was like the wind, fast and free, but able to strike with the force of a hurricane. Her energy was infectious, a stark contrast to Kaito's stoic presence. She saw the fight not as a brawl, but as a dangerous dance where one wrong step meant failure.
Then there was the giant, Boris from Russia. He was a bear of a man, a master of sambo and heavy-handed combat karate. He did not need fancy moves. His style was all about raw power, grappling and breaking his opponents. He was a former soldier who fought to forget his past, to find a new purpose in the discipline of the fight. He stood with his arms crossed, his massive frame casting a huge shadow. He was like a rock, solid and unbreakable. He believed the most direct path to victory was a straight line, and he was prepared to walk it over anyone in his way.
Across from him was Mei Lin, a young woman from China. She was a master of a rare style, a soft form of karate blended with Wing Chun. She used her opponent's strength against them, redirecting attacks with graceful, almost invisible movements. She fought to prove that true strength was not about muscle, but about control and intelligence. She was quiet, watchful, like a calm river that could hide a powerful current. Her hands were always open, ready to parry, to trap, to strike at the most vulnerable points. She was the strategist, the one who saw the fight 3 moves ahead.
The 5th fighter was Jax, an American street fighter. He learned karate not in a dojo, but in the tough alleys of his city. His style was a mix of everything: kickboxing, brawling, and a raw, self-taught karate. It was messy but effective. He fought for respect, to prove that he was more than just a street kid. He chewed on a toothpick, looking relaxed, but his eyes darted everywhere, analyzing every fighter. He was like a wild animal, unpredictable and dangerous. He did not care for tradition or honor. He cared about winning, using any trick he could.
Finally, there was a silent monk named Anand from Thailand. He was a mystery. His style was a mix of Muay Thai and an ancient defensive form of karate. He moved with incredible grace and precision. His purpose was the most profound. He fought to test his own spirit, to see if he could face violence without losing his inner peace. He was the only one who seemed truly calm, his breathing steady, his posture perfect. He was like still water, reflecting everything around him, but remaining undisturbed. His journey was internal, and this fight was just another step on his path to enlightenment.
The fight started without a word. It was Jax, the American street fighter, who made the first move. He was impatient. He spat out his toothpick and launched himself at Boris, the Russian giant. Jax thought the big man would be slow. This was a bad mistake. Boris did not even flinch. He caught Jax's flying kick like it was a slow-pitch softball, and with a grunt, he threw Jax across the room. Jax crashed into a weapons rack, sending wooden staffs clattering to the floor. The silence was broken. The storm had begun. It was chaos. Everyone moved at once.
Kaito, the Japanese traditionalist, moved toward Elena, the capoeira dancer. He threw a powerful straight punch. It was a perfect technique, aimed right at her center. But Elena was not there. She dropped to the floor, spinning on one hand, and swept her leg out in a low arc. Kaito had to jump back to avoid the tricky move. He was used to straight lines, and her circles were confusing him.
While they were locked in their dance, Mei Lin, the strategist, saw her chance. She moved like a ghost behind Boris, who was still focused on the recovering Jax. Her fingers struck like lightning at the nerves in his neck. The giant roared in pain and surprise, shaking his head to clear it. He spun around, swinging a massive arm, but Mei Lin was already gone, melting back into the shadows.
At that moment, the silent monk, Anan, finally moved. He saw Elena aim a high, spinning kick at Kaito's head. With incredible speed, Anan stepped between them. He did not block the kick with his hands. Instead, he used his elbow to strike the inside of her kicking leg. It was a painful, precise blow that sent a shockwave through Elena's body, making her stumble. He had protected Kaito, but why? His face showed no emotion.
The fight was now a whirlwind of action. Jax, recovered and angry, grabbed a fallen bow staff. He was not a traditionalist, he would use anything. He swung it wildly, forcing everyone to back away. Boris charged him like an angry bull. Kaito and Elena continued their strange dance of straight lines versus circles. And in the middle of it all, Mei Lin and Anan watched, waited, and moved only when necessary.
It was not 6 individual fights, it was one big messy battle. Alliances were made and broken in a single heartbeat. A punch meant for one person might be blocked by another. It was beautiful and dangerous.
The fight raged on. Jax used his staff to keep Boris at a distance, but the giant was smart. He grabbed a heavy training shield from the wall and used it to push forward, absorbing the blows. Finally, he got close enough to grab the staff, and he snapped it in half with his bare hands. Jax was shocked. In that moment of surprise, Boris grabbed him in a bear hug, lifted him off the ground and slammed him down hard. Jax was out, 1 down.
Meanwhile, Elena's fast kicks were starting to tire her out. Kaito saw his chance. He waited for her to launch another spinning attack, and this time he moved in close, blocking her spin and trapping her arms. With a swift open hand strike to the chest, he pushed her back. She fell breathless, 2 down.
Now there were 4. Boris, breathing heavily, turned to face Kaito, the bear versus the mountain. It was a classic match of power against technique, but before they could fight, Mei Lin struck again. She moved so fast she was just a blur. She used a series of quick, disabling strikes against Boris, targeting his joints, his knee, his elbow, his shoulder. The giant, already tired from his fight with Jax, stumbled. He could not defend himself.
Kaito, seeing an opportunity, delivered a single powerful sidekick to Boris's ribs. The giant fell to one knee, defeated. 3 down. It was now Kaito, Mei Lin, and the silent monk, Anan. Kaito and Mei Lin faced each other. It was a master of the hard style against a master of the soft style. Kaito attacked with a flurry of punches and kicks, each one strong enough to break wood. But Mei Lin was like water. She flowed around his attacks, redirecting his force, making him punch the air. She would tap his arms, his legs, throwing him off balance. Kaito was getting frustrated. He was using all his energy, while she seemed to be using none. He lunged forward for one final powerful punch. Mei Lin stepped aside, caught his arm, and used his own momentum to throw him over her shoulder. Kaito landed hard, 4 down.
Only 2 remained. Mei Lin, the clever strategist, and Anan, the peaceful monk. They stood across from each other in the quiet dojo. They bowed. Mei Lin attacked first, her movements quick and fluid. But Anan was different. He did not block. He did not redirect. He simply moved out of the way with the smallest possible motion. He was never where she aimed. It was like she was fighting a ghost. She tried for minutes, but she could not land a single strike. Finally, exhausted, she stopped. Anan stood perfectly still, his hands in a peaceful prayer position. He had not thrown a single punch. Mei Lin looked at him, then at the fallen fighters, and she understood. She smiled and bowed again, this time in defeat.
You have won, she said.
Anan simply bowed back. He had won the tournament without hurting a soul, proving that the greatest victory is the one achieved without violence. He was the true Grandmaster of the Hidden Fist.